What's going on, gamers? So here we have Digital Foundry doing an analysis for a tech review for Forza Horizon 5 on PlayStation 5 Pro and PlayStation 5. Are we ready to see how this is going to turn out? Because we see that Microsoft did a good job on the Indiana Jones port. Now here comes Forza Horizon 5. I don't know if you guys remember those documents where Sony tried to blame Microsoft by saying that they were giving them a unoptimized version of Call of Duty and they don't trust them monopolizing because they're just going to be getting crappier ports. Well, what happened to that, Sony? I guess that didn't happen, did it? So here's another video where we see right here Digital Foundry saying in the headline, undiminished excellence. Another great optimization again, unlike Sony when they're doing coming to PC. Microsoft's doing a really good job with that, making sure that things stay even and they follow their contracts. So there's nothing to say about that. Are we ready to get into this? Like, comment, subscribe. Let's do this. Get ready to play one of the best racing games after Mario Kart, because I'm telling you guys, Forza Horizon series is really good. Though I liked 4 better than 5, but they're both amazing games. All right, I haven't seen this yet, so blind attempt just with you guys.
Forza Horizon 5 is a truly superb game. This racer packs an enormous amount of content into stunning open-world environments, spanning regions of Mexico and of course a Hot Wheels-inspired paradise in the sky. But it's had a more limited Xbox-only audience on consoles, until now. That's because porting powerhouse Panic Button has just delivered a version of the game for PS5 and PS5 Pro, even sporting ray tracing boosts for pro users. So is this the definitive Forza Horizon experience on console platforms? The overview of Forza Horizon 5 remains unchanged on PS5.
One thing that I'm going to tell you that I noticed right quick between performance mode and quality is you see a difference of lighting and detail. This has a more darker contrast over here. Y'all notice that?
There's a 60 FPS targeting performance mode and a 30 FPS targeting quality mode, with some substantial visual differences that we'll touch on later, relative to the existing Xbox.
Once again, like we see lesser grass over here, more contrast and details. And we see a different of the lighting here. Like if you see the shadow right here, you can see that it has more of a contrast right over here in quality mode. There's also better background detail.
Series X version of the game though, we're looking at a similar visual experience. Flipping back and forth between Series X and PS5, there's virtually no visual distinction. Foliage placement is identical, the terrain is a match, and image quality is very similar.
Honestly, he's right. It is pretty similar in performance mode. The only difference is you'll see a little bit of difference of the way the detail is here and what is actually shown. There's more stuff being shown on Xbox. Just a little bit here. Not majorly. I mean, honestly, yeah, it's kind of hard to tell.
I'd really struggle to tell the difference between the two platforms in almost any circumstance. There are often divergences that you can chalk up to slightly different weather conditions or different accumulations of dirt or other debris, but I don't think these represent meaningful rendering differences.
There's a color difference between the Xbox and PlayStation. You could see that.
That error-free rendition of Forza Horizon 5 is actually a pretty great accomplishment, given that this engine has never run on PlayStation before. Pixel counts aren't especially important here, as both consoles typically reach and hold a full 4K in the shots I tested. I did notice more evidence of DRS on PS5 however, like in this shot which counts at about 1872p on PS5 and 2160p on Series X. I don't expect this would be at all noticeable in actual gameplay though. It's a pretty easy game to pixel.
Once again, the Series X should be running at high resolution and maintaining. PlayStation should be using DRS, like you said. That actually makes sense. Just a difference in math.
Count due to the fact that there's no TAA, and aliasing on specular and in alpha-tested foliage is pretty obvious, though minimized somewhat by the very high resolution. Quality mode is up next, and again, the two modes across the consoles here are virtually indistinguishable. I struggled to find any kind of meaningful difference between the PS5 and Series X in typical play, with both machines delivering a basically identical rendition of the game. That's the typical outcome in current-gen titles nowadays, of course, between these two rather similar consoles.
Yeah.
Across both machines, I got a flat 4K reading in my counts, suggesting a locked 2160p experience.
I feel like the Series X had more shadows right here compared to this. Like you can see the contrast over here.
We're looking at half the frame rate of the performance mode here, which seems to provide ample frame time room for a perfect pixel match on a 4K display. PS5 and Series X may be substantially similar then, but their quality and performance modes are very different. The quality mode packs a greater density of assets, stuffing a lot more foliage into every frame. Textures have more layers and often have high quality parallax occlusion maps to add additional detail.
Yeah, for
Pop-in
sure.
tends to be less of a concern, as high detail versions of the game's assets stretch far into the distance. Mexico's sprawling views definitely look quite a bit better in quality mode, especially in the shrubby desert that typifies much of the game's landmass. Most console games rely primarily on resolution changes to optimize their performance in quality modes, but Forza depends on visual settings tweaks instead. Image quality across the two modes remains similar, though the trade-off in environment detail is pretty large. It might have been possible to retain the frame rate of the performance mode with more of that extended visual quality in the quality mode by using upsampling like FSR2 instead of the game's default 4x MSAA. Though there are
Man, what a year for Microsoft, right? All this publishing we see all over the place. This is amazing. I'm loving seeing this.
image quality trade-offs between these temporal techniques and MSAA in this game. In frame rate terms, both modes are essentially impeccable, offering a consistent 60 FPS and 30 FPS update in typical play. That's not too surprising, considering how well the game operates on the Xbox platforms, but it's still an impressive feat for how attractive the game is.
Yeah.
Pre-rendered movies continue to run at 30 FPS in both modes.
Gran Turismo users, get ready to have some fun interjected into your system.
However, I did notice two small oddities though. The game's save size, even for a brand new save, is massive, clocking in at over 2 gigabytes. There's
Damn.
only one save per account, so this isn't that big of a deal, but it's a lot larger than any other save on my PS5 consoles. Series X saves in comparison are a lot smaller. The game's car physics also differ slightly depending on the mode. With zero controller input whatsoever, in this scene the car goes slightly further in quality mode. Likewise, in this shot, it may be linked to the difference in frame rate between the modes. This also appears to be the case on Xbox consoles, so it's not a new quirk on PS5 machines.
Okay. Great looking game.
PS5 Pro actually offers some pretty interesting enhancements over the base console, which are most compelling in the game's performance mode. There's a huge difference in the game's foliage. Note the denser and more vibrant greenery in these shots, with bushes and grasses and ferns that just aren't present on the base machine. Plus, further into the distance, the foliage that is rendered often shows a higher detail variant relative to the base console, with less visible pop-in. Of course, when you're barreling through races at speed, the advantage on Pro is less palpable, but the difference in density and pop-in is still obvious and highly appreciated. The PS5 Performance mode is essentially a match in foliage rendering for the PS5 quality mode in my comparisons, with an equally lavish depiction of flora detail. That's a great development, given that was the big advantage the quality mode used to have over the performance mode. It's definitely not an exact settings match though. The game's very cool cone step mapping on building exteriors is a quality mode only feature, for instance. But in typical play, the two modes look quite similar. Beyond that change, the PS5 and Pro in their respective performance modes appear much the same. Resolution is pretty close as well, though Pro has the advantage here. In the shot where the base machine got pulled to 1872p, the Pro managed to hold a native 4K. It's not
I'd hope so for the difference in price.
especially apparent in real-world gameplay in either case, but it does show that Sony's enhanced machine is pulling this off with frame time to spare. The quality mode on Pro is bound to be a little more controversial. In most respects, it's identical to its base PS5 counterpart, with similar looking tweakables in my comparison shots. But there is one key point of differentiation: ray-traced vehicle self-reflections during gameplay. Essentially,
Okay.
the player vehicle can now feature reflections of itself, which are layered on top of the game's real-time cube map reflections. This is obvious on this vehicle, where the side mirror reflects on the car body along with the protrusions around the wheel and the spoiler. It's also clear on this buggy, where the chrome frame and lights reflect a warped version of the car around it. On this trailer, the effect is more subtle, but you can still see that the straps holding down the car are reflected along the metal sides of the chassis. Opposing cars don't seem to get this treatment though, only the player vehicle. The in-game garage and Forza Vista feature these reflections on PS5, but they aren't applied during gameplay. If you go looking for the effect, it
Okay,
is
I see that.
noticeable, I would say, even if it isn't especially visually impactful. Most of the game's reflections, though, are still based on other techniques. Their deficits aren't all that noticeable at the typical pace of play in Forza.
So another one of those games where it's not a major difference again. See, that's what I want to see. It's because it's kind of disappointing when you don't see that on the Pro. And yeah, why that is nice. I mean, I should speak it in 60 frames on that
So
on
it's not like you're
quality.
losing out on too much in the way of fidelity here.
Yeah,
Still, I would have loved a more comprehensive RT reflection solution, perhaps like the one in Forza Motorsport, though that would probably be outside the scope of a port like this.
that
Outside
makes
of that
sense.
improvement, the PS5 and Pro here look essentially identical, matching in every significant respect in my testing. That includes resolution, as both machines seem locked to a full 4K pixel count. Frame rates on both modes are just as they were on PS5, which is to say that they reach their respective targets without drops. Expect a locked 30 FPS in quality mode, with the performance mode holding a steady 60. There is one curious issue on PS5 Pro though.
The game, the game is like how many years old now, and we're not getting 60 frames per second on the Pro. What?
In the current patch. If you turn on the game's photo mode in quality mode on PS5 Pro during a race event, it crashes. I was able to replicate this behavior several times during multiple races, so I suspect this is an issue across the game. The
Ouch.
Pro Performance mode doesn't bear this issue, nor does the base machine in either of its modes. Forza Horizon 5 is an excellent racer, but is still one of the best looking racing games ever made. No racing game really comes close to the level of raw environmental fidelity that Forza Horizon 5 so effortlessly accomplishes across its vast open world.
True.
Plus, the car models look great, lighting quality is excellent, and performance is typically impeccable across its target platforms. Panic Button's porting effort certainly does the job too, though the base PS5 essentially comes in exactly as expected. Relative to Series X, it's a near perfect match. That's not a bad thing at all though, as the port is consistently high quality and arrives without significant issues. The Pro is really where the action is at, specifically in its performance mode. Getting quality mode foliage at performance mode frame rates is a huge bonus for Pro users, and
Yeah.
provides a big visual boost over the base machine. It's likely the base console could have achieved something similar with a hit to.
Well, that's what you expect though. If I have a more powerful console and we're both running performance, now since I have more power and I have the AI upscaling, I can just make that image quality look better and maintain the 60 frames with higher settings. That's what an upgraded PC is supposed to do. You know what I mean? That's where I feel like there's certain people in that world only that don't realize, bro, it's supposed to do that. If I upgrade my PC, I better see, a difference here. You know what I mean? I shouldn't have to stare. Like, that's my thing with this. So we get the good idea here. Like, comment, subscribe, let me know what you guys think. As we see, the PlayStation 5 version does not outperform the Series X, and in that one aspect, the Series X had a higher screenshot on a couple occasions, but he said you have to zoom in to see that. But still, at the end of the day, it's running better. We've started to see this to be more consistent now when there is no weird deals and money hiding or market share going on. It's just, hey, I'm going to optimize this the best I can for this and optimize it I can the best for that. And if the honest results show, then that says a lot about things because math tells you what should be performing better. Same thing with the Pro, you know what I mean? So this is still great. Glad that y'all got an excellent port in the PlayStation world. Enjoy that. Pretty sure there's people playing the early access or paid $100 for that, though I don't, not really a fan of that anti-consumer behavior. But hey, if people want to pay for that, go ahead. Definitely if the game is that old. But other than that, yeah, ponies y'all eating. Thank Microsoft for that. Don't be rude. They're giving you some food, you know what I mean? They're bringing you food. Boys got to eat. So y'all can't be hating. Y'all got to give respect where it's due because they're showing you more love than Sony is this year. which is a shame. That should not be happening. But there we have it. All right, let me know what y'all think of the support. If y'all get it, how's it running for y'all on PlayStation? All right, y'all. Peace out. Have a great day.